Good evening and welcome to another episode of A Scotsman Talks To. I'm laughing, I can't help it, because as soon as the theme music came on, I just thought, I bet my guest is just going, oh, really? Because folks, this is, I think, the episode you've all been waiting for. Yes, our guest tonight is a wonderful man who thankfully stepped in last minute after, and I will hold my hands up. I had some miscommunication. Not the guest that was supposed to be on. I may have accidentally messed a few things up, but thankfully, our guest tonight stepped in, and we've had a wee chat before the show. And as always, we've had a wee laugh. But the reason I say this is the one you've been waiting on, because he's not just an Englishman who emigrated to Canada as a kid, so therefore he's Canadian. Oh, no. We're talking about a proper Englishman on my show, A Scotsman Talks To. So basically, this is the duking out. This is the battle royale that you guys have all been waiting for. And I'm going to disappoint you, because it's not going to happen, because he's a lovely, charming, intelligent man, and it's not his fault. I'm watching my little screen and seeing him laughing away. But ladies and gentlemen, tonight's guest is a lovely fella. He's out right in the East Coast, I think. You know what? It's Canada. It's so bloody big. I don't get it. I mean, honestly, it's a ridiculously obscene place to live, and clearly both of us love being here. But my guest tonight is a gentleman called Gareth Mitton, and Gareth stepped in last minute, and I'm really delighted because he is in fact the first author I have had on the show, and I am really looking forward to chatting to him. I've been looking at his work, his blogs, his doodles. They confuse me, but we'll speak about them. His current book that he has out, and I'm really excited to have him on the show. Not just the fact that he's English, because I can just tell there's going to be moments. We can't help it. There is a joyous, happy kind of love to abuse each other verbally when you encounter a Scotsman and an Englishman. And if we had an Irishman, we would have the perfect comedy kind of a trifecta. It would be amazing. But without further ado, let's get this gentleman on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, A Scotsman Talks To, Gareth Mitton, a fellow man from the old country who's now living in this strange new country, which means we both get to call you guys colonials. It's just something we do. We can't help it. I'm going to invite him onto the show. Please welcome Gareth Mitton. Gareth,
what an introduction! What an introduction! I don't even know where to start with that. First of all, you said
colonial thing. I can't help but rub it into them sometimes. It's so lovely.
Oh, we're going to team up. That's what we're going to do. Okay, that's fine. We can do that. That's fine.
Yeah, we can do that. So, Gareth, thank you very much for joining me. I'm so delighted that you were able to step in at such short notice. How are you? How are you keeping?
I'm well. It's past my bedtime because I am on the east coast of Canada. So there's about 18 time zones in Canada, as we all know, right? So yeah. It's 10:03 here. It's not the latest time zone I've lived in. I spent some time in Newfoundland, which is, if you know, is the little island off the east coast of Canada where my wife is from.
Ah,
so it could be worse. It could be 10:34, and then I'd really be struggling, but it's not too bad. I'm doing all right.
What, they like a 30-minute? I never knew a 30-minute.
They have their own time zone on the half hour. That's how wacky the Newfoundlanders are. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been screeched in for New Year once.
Good stuff.
And that was rough. I think that's a Newfie thing. Yeah, that's a Newfie thing. Yeah.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
There was probably the kissing
of Canada, like myself. You've been here a wee bit longer.
Yeah, it's also blurry, but it would have been early 2000s. I first floated over around the turn of the millennium, and a couple of years later made the move permanent. Yeah, it's been a while. It's hard to believe how long it's been.
So I need to ask, before we actually get into any of the show stuff, what encouraged you to come to Canada? What was the drive?
It's a story, of course. It's got to be a story, right? I was arsing about doing an English degree because I wasn't very good at anything else. So I went to university in...
Wait. I always have to laugh about English people doing an English degree.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm already qualified, so it was dead easy, right?
No, please continue. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It really is stupidly easy to get an English degree. Otherwise, I wouldn't have one. No, I was at a school in Preston, which is also northern England, not too far from where I was born and did grow up, and met what I like to say is the only Canadian girl that was ever in a bar in Rochdale, deepest, darkest northern England, and followed a girl over. But I'd always had a fascination, and it's not the same girl that I'm married to, just to get that out there. So no, it didn't work out quite that well. But we are still friends, so that's nice. So I'd always had a weird fascination with Canada, though, because I was a weird kid, and I always liked to write and have lots of my own space. And my geography teacher, I remember very clearly in high school, and I don't know if this is accurate, but this is how I remember it. He said that Canada was 40 times the size of the UK with half the population. So that stuck in my head, and it became a thing for me. I got a bit obsessed with, I'd love to go to Canada. So I think it was kind of fate that, I happened to bump into a Canadian girl and use that as an excuse to come on over, and just never left, really.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Why is it us people from the UK end up in Canada because of women?
Yeah, we do. We're suckers for love, aren't we? Essentially.
Oh, yeah. I mean, oddly enough, your story is very similar to mine. I actually always had this idea of Canada and the Americas, we'll say. I love that wide open space and that idea of adventure, but Canada always appealed. So, that's kind of curious. I think coming from the 40 times thing, though, can't be accurate.
No, it's definitely
more
not.
Than that.
It's more. It's got to be more, isn't it? It's massive.
Well, I mean, I always say it was when the Fort Mac fires started here in Alberta. I'm sure it was something like 2 or 3 times the size of the UK or something like that.
Yeah, just would have obliterated our homeland completely.
Well,
they're like a bit of a fire. Yeah.
I know the scale of the fire. I think it was. I know that the UK would have got taken out in like this, like the space. Yeah,
no, it's one thing I can be very honest about is that I'm terrible at math, so I never really bothered to try to check that. I've just done what my mum does and taken something that she heard once and used it for the rest of my life as gospel truth. So I should probably go fact check.
No. We basically invented the language, so we get to dictate.
Yeah, we can just make shit up. It's fine. Yeah,
that's how we got invented.
I mean, we weren't going to get into politics, but that's the way politics is going. You can just make things up now, and that's it. That's fine. People believe it. So,
okay, I need to correct
you around that.
The way politics is going.
Well, yeah, no, fair enough.
It's become more extreme. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, I think the line has been taken to new levels and a little bit more. A bit more out in the open, perhaps, but so it's never been perfect, has it?
So you came to Canada now. Just out of interest, are you where you started your trip in Canada, or did you travel about?
Well, actually, this is an interesting story too. So the girl that I met was from Newfoundland, so that was my first port of call, and I spent many of the last. However many years that's been, like 17, 18 years, I guess now, in Newfoundland, actually. And my wife, as I say, is a Newfoundlander. We've been together a lot of years now, 14 years maybe.
Okay.
A while.
I'll edit that out because by no means is it live. And are you going to get into trouble for not knowing that
She's
date?
pretending to sleep in the other room. She can totally hear me, and I'm going to get in so much trouble. But Newfoundland was the first port of call, and do you want the full life story? No,
we'll get to that. Actually,
we'll get to that. But I bet so. Okay, the short answer then is that I sometime in Newfoundland, a fair bit of time in New Brunswick, which is a couple of provinces towards you in Alberta. So you got Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, before we start getting into Quebec and Ontario and all that stuff. So I spent a fair bit of time in the Atlantic provinces. I did spend 1 year in Calgary, actually. Yeah, and worked for, and I think actually a connection there was the reason that this ended up happening. So I was in Calgary for about a year. I worked as a reporter and content editor for a newspaper out of Chestermere, Alberta.
Yes.
Which, if anybody is familiar with Chestermere, it's a city.
The devil and he appeareth. Stephen has just commented.
Oh, he's in, is he? Okay, perfect. So, hey, Steve. So thank you, Steve, for introducing us. So yeah, Steve Jeffrey, a mutual friend there, is a long-time owner and operator of the Chestermere Anchor, as it's been known, of Chestermere News. And I was a reporter for that newspaper for a year. When Chestermere was a town, it went from summer village to it was officially a town when I was there, and is now, of course, a city, which is so hard for me to believe, but great to see.
Yeah, and Stephen is actually fact-checking us, which is quite funny. And I'm not believing this. He runs a newspaper, so I'm never going to believe what he says.
No, that sounds made up.
Only 3.999% larger than the UK.
What is?
Canada.
Get out. That's not possible.
Balderdash, I call
No. I think he needs to fact check his sources.
Or maybe he meant to say 39.99.
Yeah.
Maybe 399.
Oh, that's what he's doing. Yeah, I said 40, so he's going 39.9.
Yeah,
that's a very Steve thing.
Yeah, he got his point in the wrong zone. Excellent.
Yeah.
I love that, though. We're talking about.
You don't want to get your point in the wrong zone. It's not a good look.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on.
So let's actually begin this interview properly, because one of the things that I've always done is a very relaxed chat. That is almost 4,000%, he says. Okay, that could be right.
I can't do math. I can't count past 10 without taking my socks off.
I know.
There's no point.
Right? I tell stories. We're not designed for arithmetic.
Yeah, we're storytellers. We make things up. Yeah. If it sounds better, actually 4,000 sounds better. So we'll go with that.
4,000 sounds awesome. There you go, folks. Canada is officially 400,000 times.
4 million times larger than the UK. And from now on, that's how I'm telling it.
That's it. We're done. We're done. No more fact checking. Fact checked on my show. That's great. Oh, wait a minute. People are totally messaging here.
Oh God, are people Googling this now?
Read some of the messages. I don't know. Can you see them as well on your screen?
I can't. No.
Okay.
Maybe I can bring them up somewhere.
Yeah, don't worry.
Comments I can actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. So let's actually start the show properly, because some people may not know who you are. So I think the best thing to do would be actually 14 minutes in, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself now.
That's the way it's done these days, right? You're watching a movie and the credits start rolling, like 15 minutes in, it's like, oh. So I think that's just cool. That means that gives me gravitas, I think.
That does. So please,
anyway,
about yourself and who you are and what you do.
So I'm Gareth Mitton. As you say, we've done all the bit where I was born in England, and I'm a proud Canadian citizen these days, but just as proud to be a Brit. I suppose the most interesting thing would be that I'm now officially a published novelist as of May of this year, which, if we talk through my story a bit, was a lot longer coming than I really anticipated or intended. But I did release a science fiction novel called Pedestal. I'm going to do the shameless plug because you said that was all right. So I'll do this.
This show is all about shameless plugs.
Ask me about the cover design later too, because that's a very interesting story in its own right. So this is Pedestal, and it's through a awesome publisher out of Newfoundland, actually, Engen Books, ENGEN, who have been around good dozen or so years now, I believe, and have done marvelous work in promoting genre fiction in particular out of Atlantic Canada, and are growing, and that's been great to see. So, it's really sort of that's the most interesting thing I've done. But in terms of the summary of my life, much of my life has been spent as a advertising copywriter and creative director for a large ad agency in Atlantic Canada. I've moved on from that now, and I'm just doing some marketing work for a private business, and some freelance work, and trying to do more of the fiction writing. But I spent many a year doing that fun Mad Men type thing. So that was kind of fun too. So that's the summary. I've dabbled in a bit of podcasting. I'm starting to venture into a bit of audiobook narration, bits and pieces of everything.
Wonderful.
Some blogging.
Wonderful. No, yeah, I was having a look at your website, of course. There's something partly I have to do due diligence and actually research guests. Someone told me.
No, it's more fun if they just come on and surprise you.
Who are you? What is your name?
Why are you here?
You know what? There's a whole new show.
Yeah, the surprise guest. I actually thought the Englishman, Irishman, and a Scotsman show could be good. We just need to find an Irishman, and I think we'd have a really good show.
Who wants to deal with the Irish?
Dodgy. Listen, I know you'd be saying the same thing about the English if I wasn't here. So.
Oh yeah, I know. You're totally right.
It's all right, but as long as we understand it.
We're so two-faced and twisted.
Completely.
Comes with 500 years of persecution. No.
I have Scottish friends. Some of my best friends are Scottish.
No, it's okay. It's just for anybody who's watching. There will be comments made, and I promise you they're all in jest, because no matter what the movies tell you and the world tells you, the majority of Scottish people, Irish, English, French, we'll leave them out, get on really well.
I'm going to get a lot of comments. There's going to be emails.
Oh, it's okay. People know me well enough.
But they'll be sending them to you, so it's fine.
Yeah. So, let me just see. Do we have any questions just from coming in?
I saw Andrew Pike there asked about.
Apparently, somebody can set us up with an interesting Irish human.
There's so many interesting Irish humans. Every Irish human is interesting. I've never met an interesting Irish person.
Oh God, Stephen knows an Irishman as well.
Why does that not surprise me? Steve really gets around.
Oh, brilliant. So the one question, just really now to get things kicked off properly, because you introducing yourself isn't even kicking it off properly. That's just so people know who the hell you are, which I think is just a courtesy. It also confirms I have the right guest on.
That's the main reason you were doing it.
Yeah,
it's been a confusing week for you.
Is it him? Okay. So I mentioned in our pre-chat, Gareth, that I kind of focused my questions, worked on the Joseph Campbell kind of hero with a thousand faces concept, the hero journey.
Yeah.
Which is basically, if you're unfamiliar, I say this most times, but Star Wars is your greatest example. So you're a sci-fi writer, so you know you're in those leagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So every hero journey, every story journey, everything starts in one place, and it's the most important place, and that's the origin story. So what I now want from yourself is Gareth Mitton's origin story, and by that I mean you can start at the popping if you want. You know, you can start right at the beginning. But what we want to know is, how did you get to where you are? How did you become an author? What was the drive? What was the passion that brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. My origin story is not as interesting as Batman's or Wolverine's, but it's kind of interesting. You know, I grew up in, as I say, northern England. I always say to Canadians, kind of near Manchester. You might have a better sense of the geography. So I actually grew up in Lancashire, Pennine Moors.
Yeah,
but actually it's actually very nice there. I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid, but it was really what you think about the rolling green and pleasant land and all that. Like very, very pretty place to grow up. But I actually grew up in a very small, by British standards, by English standards, small village, quite about half an hour from Manchester, which would be the nearest city. And it was kind of interesting because we were a working class family. There was me, my mum, my dad, and my older sister, Paula. She's 7 years older than me. And I was a little bit of a, let's say, miracle. I prefer miracle to accident. Because mum and dad didn't think they could have kids. So actually Paula was adopted. So, and 7 years later, mum fell pregnant again, and they were very worried that it wasn't going to work out. But yeah, the pop did occur. So that was kind of, I like telling that. That's kind of interesting, right? But around about the time that mum found out that I was coming along, my father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Oh,
so at the age of 39, so very, very, a real bolt out of the blue for them.
Yeah.
So it was the worst kind of MS, unfortunately. It debilitated him. Most of my childhood memories were me at home with mum. Paul moved out quite young, and we would visit dad on the weekends. So like my childhood was kind of weird, but it wasn't bad in any way. Mum was very smart, and I think that's kind of why I talk about this, is because mum was actually a very gifted writer, and my mother always loved to write, and my dad was a cutting wit. So and the MS never took his mental faculties. It was kind of sad. We lost him 2001, but he was kind of debilitated in the body. The mind stayed active. That's rough. Yeah. But also, I had the privilege of still enjoying his wit and wisdom for most of my growing up. So I had the combination, but also what those circumstances meant. And because my mother, they were kind of older parents. Mum would have been a war baby. So back then she was the eldest child. And when she did well in school, that was great, but she had to go to work, right? She didn't get to go to college and university and pursue the writing. So I think there was always a bit of a desire in me to, do what mum wasn't given the opportunity to do. Yeah. And from an early age, I always, I did pretty well in school. I was awful at math, but I was really good at the arts, English in particular, and writing and reading and public reading and things like that. So I was always going to drift that way. I was pretty good at art. So it was always going to be the arts for me, right? So that was kind of the origin story, really. And then, went on to do my English degree in university, and partied wildly for 3 years and somehow scraped through with a BA. And
nice.
And that's kind of where the crossroads occurred, and I met a Canadian girl and ended up drifting this way. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do at that point until I kind of fell backwards, as they say, into a career in advertising. Yeah. That's kind of how that went.
Excellent.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So I met we talked about the fascination with Canada from an early age, right? So
yeah,
it was weird to me that I met. Seems sort of serendipitous that I met a Canadian girl in Northern England. There weren't many of those around. If Canadian girls came over, they were usually in London, right? They would come over maybe to. That's where Canadians tend to go. Like if they come to England, they go to London, which is understandable.
Scotland is Edinburgh.
Yes, exactly. It's the
major capitals.
Exactly. So there weren't a lot of Canadian girls roaming around Northern England. So I felt like that was fairly serendipitous, and I followed her over, and it didn't work out with her, but it worked out with the country, and it worked out with the career.
Excellent.
And that gave me the start in writing. Was I just didn't know what I was going to do. I worked at Tim Hortons for a bit. I worked the night shift at Tim Hortons. At Tim Hortons at the top of George Street in Newfoundland, in St. John's, Newfoundland. I don't know if you're familiar with George Street.
I've actually been over. I've only been as far as Peterborough out west, so I haven't made it far as your location.
Yeah, you're a long way from Newfoundland. Yeah. Well, George Street is. I think and this could be another Canada is 40 times the size of the UK, but I was told that George Street has the most bars per capita of any street in the universe. It's just a street full of bars, which typifies the Newfoundland culture, which is, heavily descended from Irish and English and Scottish.
Yeah, well,
they like to drink, So
you know what? Normally, I'd be like, oh no, there's got like somewhere in the UK's got to have that, or Ireland somewhere.
You would think, right?
On this occasion, they might have this.
I did read about it in a men's magazine when I was a kid. I think, like a teenager, and was like, where is that? Newfoundland? Where is this exotic place? Well, I think it was on like a, world's best places to go on your bachelor party.
Right.
So I think I'm pretty sure it's true. I'm just waiting for somebody in the comments to correct me now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we now know that Canada's 4 million times the size.
I know. So anything's possible.
40 million.
Anyway, so I worked at the Tim Hortons at the top of George Street. And they did night shifts. It was open 24 hours. So people would like come up like at closing time, 4:00 in the morning, looking for, bagels. And it was just a scene. So I didn't last very long there. I worked in an art store for a while and I was beating around. And I actually technically was only on a visitor permit because I was young and stupid and just came over and said, hey, it'll probably be fine. It's very hard for me to imagine doing anything like that now.
Yeah.
But my then girlfriend's cousin saw an ad in the paper for a creative writer and knew that Gareth likes to write. And it was around this time that I'd started working on the novel, which took a very long time to finish. So yeah, she saw an ad in the paper and showed it to me, and I went, creative writer, that's a job? Really? Okay, that sounds good. So I applied, and I got an interview and, went to this ad agency, and they're kind of looking at me like, where did this guy come from? Back then, there wasn't a lot of immigrants in Newfoundland of any kind, really. Mm-hmm. So I was a bit of a exotic creature to be coming through the doors.
Saucy.
Yes. I think it worked heavily in my favor. Like, I'm sure that the accent and the charm was, like a big part of the reason I got the job. But they gave me a couple of interviews. They gave me a creative writer's test, which they told me I did quite well in. And it was great because it was things like make up 5 names for a funeral home. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I could do that all day, I won't tell you some of the ones I came up with. I can't really remember, but I'm sure they were largely inappropriate. But anyway, they said they brought me in and they said, we'd like to offer you a position as a junior copywriter. And I said, that's great. I said, there's just one thing. I can't legally work in Canada. So they said, okay. And what ended up happening, I was in the process of applying for permanent residence. My then girlfriend was sponsoring me and I was living with her family. So, I was doing that. Fact check. I just want to pause. Fact check from Steve Jeffrey. You seen this? George Street has the most bars per 10,000 people in cities in Canada. Stat Canada, people. You can't debate that. Well,
you know what? I think we've just found a new job for Stephen in relation to this show. He is going to be my fact checker awesome. Because trust me, there's a lot of inaccuracies.
Yeah, we'll do it.
They're not inaccuracies. They're flamboyant claims.
Yeah, they're mild exaggerations, which is essentially the career that I fell into. The career of mild exaggeration, right?
Oh, you were going through your residency stuff while trying to get this job, or
yeah. So then I ended up saying to him, "Look, treat it as like an internship. I'll come in." And I thought that I was maybe 6 months away from becoming a permanent resident. That ended up being a full year. I worked a lot of hours for a full year with no pay. And I'm quite sure now, this is like only like 17, 18 years ago. And I think even now, like, I don't know if that would happen, right? Like, I think they just would have gone, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate, they let me do it and they were very reasonable about it. And actually they did recompensate me retrospectively later over a course of time. So, it's something that I did. I just enjoyed the work. So and I knew that I had no idea really, other than I want to write things. I had no plan for a career, so it got my foot in the door, and that became, but for a couple of brief spells away, about 15 years with that company, so with that ad agency. So
excellent.
Yeah.
So how did the writing come into this? What was your passion about writing then? I mean, like, how do you go from just an English degree in marketing to this dream of writing your own novel?
So the dream of writing a novel far predated marketing. Marketing was never the dream, and I still, have days I say to my wife, it's like, I always said I wouldn't work in marketing forever. I'm still working in marketing, but I'm actually very thankful, because marketing has paid the bills and given me a lot of very interesting experiences that I can talk about too, if you're interested. I was the creative director on the New Brunswick tourism account for a while, and that's how I was introduced to New Brunswick. We toured around and saw the best bits of New Brunswick, and that's why I got such an affinity with this province, which I think is one of the more underrated in Canada, actually. And I got to do a really interesting series of ads for the sports book, Atlantic Lottery Corporation, as a pro line, it's called, sports betting.
Okay.
And I was fortunate because there was a concept already that had been developed prior to my time that featured some guys all living together in an apartment. They were very, very funny, very well done, and the talent was great. They were Second City Improv guys out of Toronto, actually, and came to Halifax, and we shot ads in Halifax. So I got to work with those guys and write scripts. So they were great experiences, and I wouldn't trade those for anything. If people are interested, you can go to my website and go to the marketing page and click through to my online portfolio for the marketing stuff, and some of the ads are there from a few years ago. So that was all great, but the love of writing predated the marketing, and I in high school I wrote a lot. I wrote my own stuff. I remember my earliest memories of writing stories about ninjas, and for some reason lions and unicorns featured a lot. Not really sure why that combination. Lions and unicorns. Yeah.
Oh, do you know why?
No, I have no idea. Is that a thing?
That's just showing, like, now, can I ask, was the lion devouring the unicorn?
No, they did get in scraps, but the unicorns were surprisingly wily, and the horns are pretty sharp.
Do you know what you're actually depicting there in your subconscious was the eternal struggle between Scotland and England throughout history.
Is that what I was doing? Wait, which is Scotland?
Lion of England and
Lion of England,
Scotland.
I'm sorry, but is the unicorn the Scottish national animal?
It is.
It's not real. It's not real.
Excuse me, sir. I think you'll find it. Even your queen, her royal highness, has it on her emblem.
The horned horse. I think there was some drugs involved.
Did you not know the unicorn is the national animal of Scotland?
Is it real? No, get out. Yeah. He's having me on. Somebody where's Steve Jeffrey?
Look at the coat of arms for the royal family. You've got the lion.
I know. I'm picturing
the unicorn.
That now. There is a unicorn on there, yeah.
And the unicorn is Scotland.
I've never even thought about that. Is it really?
Yeah.
Why? Do you know why?
Well, we invented them. That's why.
You invented unicorns.
There is actually a folk tale about.
Get on.
It's called The Coming of the Unicorn, where it was created for a very early Scottish king, probably looking at the kind of Pictish times.
Whoa. I'm very interested. You should do have you done an episode on this? Because
I haven't done one on that yet, no.
Can you do it? Because I would listen with interest.
Oh, you're getting sassed by a Canadian saying even they knew that. I am really surprised you didn't know that, but I mean, I'm only jesting, of course.
I was 21 when I left England. I was young.
Of course, the symbol of England and of the unicorn has been Scotland. So maybe subconsciously you're been embroiled in a historic battle, a struggle through the ages that you didn't even know of.
I know, but the unicorns always came off best in my stories.
And that's why the Scots were so amazing.
That's bizarre. I never knew. I never knew.
So a question has come in for both of us. Who is your favorite Scottish author and why is it not Irving Welsh?
Oh dear.
Do you have a favorite Scottish author?
Well, I might need a fact check on this because I think he's Scottish, but Ian Banks? Is it Ian Banks? Yeah, he's Scottish. He's like Scottish. Yeah, royalty basically, right?
Oh yes, yep. No, I'm very much a Robert Louis Stevenson fella.
Well, right, yeah. That's a bit more
classics. I really
that's
do.
a bit more classic than me. Ian Banks was incredibly influential, I guess you would say, on me. Came along at a very impressionable time in my life when I think it was kind of like around high school, and it was a weird thing too. You know, sometimes you have these weird encounters in life that you can't put in, like kind of like meeting the only Canadian girl ever to walk into a bar in Rochdale. Well, Ian Banks is one of those for me because I would work a Saturday job, pumping gas, as Canadians would say, but I was actually serving petrol in England. I was the kid who came out and filled the car up at the little service station in our tiny village. On Saturdays, that was my job. And this guy came in, and in my memory, he was like some kind of tradesman, maybe a plumber or something. He was always like, dressed in the coveralls and kind of smelly, but a real friendly guy. And he saw me reading something. I think I don't want to say what I was reading because I think it might have been A History of the World in 10.5 chapters, I think it's called, by Julian Banks. Yeah, that's a phenomenal, and I should go read that again. Anyway, he must have spotted that and gone, hey, this kid likes to read weird stuff. So he said, have you ever read any Ian Banks? And I'd not heard of him at that point in my life. The guy came back the next Saturday with a plastic grocery bag full of Ian Banks books, and they were the most beautiful books. There was a period where all Ian Banks's books were the cover designs were all black and white.
Oh, I remember them.
Do you remember those?
One was always spectacular.
Yes, yeah. They were absolutely beautiful. So I got these books and I was just immediately, and that kind of, I think that might have been another sort of thing that pushed my interest in design too, because they were just so beautiful and aesthetically pleasing that you just wanted to open it up and see what was inside, right? I thought they were so well done. Yeah. And Ian Banks, I started reading Ian Banks and it was like nothing else I'd ever read. Just the imagination. He would almost meld, if people aren't familiar with Ian Banks, please check it out. He would meld kind of fantasy with real, and a lot of it was like set in Scotland and these grand Scottish castles, or it would be like, there was one, The Bridge. Did you ever read The Bridge? That one really stuck in my head. I think it was kind of like, from what I remember, it was kind of this kind of fantasy thing, but it was melded around, like, I think it was like the Forth Rail Bridge or something. But it was his ability to meld kind of very kind of gritty real world and strong characters with these fantasy elements was something I hadn't really seen.
You're making me want to read Banks again.
Yes, go read Banks.
It's like I've always been a bit more the older. I like Arthur Conan Doyle stuff and all that. I've always liked that. But Banks, you're right, was superb. Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking, I need to go read Ian Banks again.
And I'm thinking I need to go read Ian Banks again. So I think I'm going to do it.
Fact check. Unicorns first used on a Scottish coat of arms in the 12th century.
Wow. And the Steve again.
I know.
It's been a while.
Like,
he's an encyclopedia. Or is he in fact just a man with Google?
I don't care. He's hitting legendary status tonight. I'm surprised the 12th century. I always thought it was a wee bit older than that, but I'm not going to challenge our fact checker.
See, that sounds old to a Canadian, right? But it's to us, that's like last week. Come on.
When I first came to Canada, I was invited to do the 150 anniversary.
Oh yeah, that was big. Yeah.
So I got, and you know what? Yeah,
my nan's older than that.
We're just like 150 years. What? Well, me being me, I basically couldn't resist, and I'm sorry, Canada, but I had to do it. I got up and I kind of went, it's really weird me doing 150 years of Canada because I've pissed on a cobble in the Royal Mile that's older than this country.
Oh my God.
And the whole place went quiet for a moment. And then thankfully they saw the humor and it erupted. But oh gosh, I thought,
oh man, that's brilliant. The balls to do that. But
well, when you wear
Canadians are so good humor too, though, man. Like they know, they laugh at themselves too. Which is one of the things I love about Canadians, actually.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's a great place. I've always said though, they're a bit too nice.
A bit too nice, but people say that about the English. But the English are either like too nice or just complete dicks. There's no in between.
Have a flat line of asshole.
Yeah, but you're consistent.
We're assholes. We roll with it.
I went to in university. There was one Scottish lad that hung around kind of on the periphery of our group, and I said group in the Scottish accent because I was getting in the mindset to do him. Like, he had just one line. And he would break it out at the most perfect moments and just slay us. And it was as simple as this. For fuck's sake. That was it. That was the line. And the
reason
us.
For that is because the Scottish make swearing an art form. Billy Connolly has a wee video on Scottish swearing, and we make it an art form. Other countries try. Some countries do swearing well, but when you hear a Scottish person just go off in one and start swearing, it's sublime.
Yeah. British people always just sound like they're like anytime an English person swears, you feel like they're going to go tee afterwards, right? But a Scottish person, it's just it's that accent was just made, those accents, because I do realize there's a rich tapestry of accents throughout the Scottish lands.
Yes, yeah.
And the English. But they're all good at swearing. All of them.
And Andrew's saying, Andrew, don't worry. And also, I appreciate you're using the Canadian sorry. And
that's
for
great.
people who have lived in Canada that are new to Canada, we know exactly what the Canadian sorry means.
Nice.
Oh, no, I love the Canadians. So tell me, your book that you wrote, what was the inspiration for this book?
I could not tell you. Well, I think I could tell you. I think there was a lot of inspirations, but a weird one that I always mention, because the book is a very, it's quite a deep, quite a sort of quite serious in sort of take, a bit philosophical in terms of like man's relationship with technology. But one of the biggest inspirations was something that was not serious at all, and was a comedy show that was on the BBC, I think BBC Two originally. You're going to know it. Red Dwarf.
Oh, yes.
You know Red Dwarf?
Oh, it's well known over here as well.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. And Red Dwarf is just brilliant. And I'll go back and watch it today and I still go, wow, it's just so ahead of its time in many respects. Like, I mean, they lampooned a lot of, Star Trek and Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and you name it, they lampooned it. But it was also quite brilliant in its own right. The way that it explored this idea of the last surviving human adrift in space with only, what was it, a hologram, an android, and the evolved life form that evolved from his pregnant cat were his mates, and that was it. But it touched some really deep notes of sort of like, being alone in the universe. And, I think it was very affecting for me at a young age. I remember, you'd watch the show, and hilarious, by the way. If anybody didn't see Red Dwarf, I can't recommend it highly enough. But I started reading the books, and the books were really quite well done as well. Rob Grant and Doug Naylor actually produced books, and a lot of it was material that was in the show, but like with any book, a lot of the time there was more depth in the books, and I really enjoyed them. And I read and reread, and I still have the copy. I wish I'd thought if I thought the conversation was going to take a Red Dwarfian turn, I would have brought it out, because I have this battered old
this show.
I have this battered old copy of I think it was Omnibus Red Dwarf and Better Than Life. So it was like the two novels in one, and it's beaten up. And if you open, I think like to the second page, it still says Gareth Mitton 9G, which means I was in year 9 in high school, which would have been I would have been all of 12, 13 years old. Careful
with that. Don't let them know.
so
TV takes years off you.
It was a while ago. So anyway, Red Dwarf was an odd thing that really kind of pulled me into. I think all teenage boys are kind of into sci-fi, and Star Wars and Star Trek is a huge part of my life. My dad would sit me on his lap when my earliest memories are dad in a wheelchair with me on his lap watching Captain James T. Kirk and Spock. Oh, yeah. And dad never really took to the Next Generation. He always said that Jean-Luc Picard is no Starship Commander, was his exact words, which is horrible.
Oh,
yeah.
Your father was brutal.
He was not buying old Picard, so who I dearly love, and The Next Generation is by far my favorite. But so you always that undercurrent was always there from such an early age too, like with the sci-fi. And in high school, I also started then. Blade Runner would be a huge one, because Blade Runner I had no idea existed, and it came on Channel 4 one night, and I was mesmerized. I hadn't seen anything like it, right? Like it was such a different type of science fiction movie for me to see at a young age. It wasn't, lasers out in space, and it wasn't camp, and it wasn't satire. It was gritty, and it was based on Earth, and it was very, very real and almost noir in many ways as well, but visually spectacular and a really well told story. Yeah. And of course, then you do the thing where you go, where did that come from? And I discovered Philip K. Dick, who became probably like my favorite sort of old school sci-fi writer, and I just started consuming that. So
a very hit and miss writer, but still.
there's some bad ones. There's some
difficult reads there.
Pretty weird things. What's that one? Have you read the one where he gets really meta, and it's like about him and a bunch of other science fiction writers traveling through time? It's so strange.
It rings a bell.
It's the weirdest thing.
The problem with Philip K. Dick, I always find, is when you read some of them, they're great, and when you read a bad one, it's literally wire brush and Dettol to the brain, because you need to wipe it out, or it's just painful.
So bad.
It's just like it takes.
Yeah, no, it's bad
because it plays on a loop.
It's hard to get out. It has a lot of these like strange little machines, which actually is something that ended up finding its way into my writing too. In Pedestal, there's that, and it was a very subconscious thing where I'm like, oh, I bet that's because of Dick. I bet that's his fault. So there was tons of influences. What's that? Phrase.
Just when you basically say on a show like this, I bet that's because of Dick.
Yeah.
You've got to. I know you've got context there, but I'm going to edit that out and just put that separately as a soundbite now.
All right, ready? That was because of Philip K. Dick. Now you can.
Sorry.
You can patch it.
I will always say I've had some great guests, and I love all my guests on this show. But it's kind of nice speaking to someone from the UK who gets our slightly twisted sense of humor.
Yeah, no,
Because
I
we
hear
grew
you.
up
I
on
hear you.
Monty Python and Red Dwarf and Blackadder, and we have a
Blackadder, yeah.
really weird sense of humor in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, it's no wonder we're a bit twisted with what we
Yeah.
grew up consuming, is it? But they were like, it's such amazing comedy. Like Blackadder was one of just a huge part of my life. And
I actually found it on Amazon for $15, the whole box set.
really? Oh man,
Mine.
that's a steal. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. So Philip K. Dick, because of Dick,
Philip K.
you were influenced.
We'll call it Phil.
Gadgets. So tell us a wee bit about Pedestal, though, for anyone who doesn't know about this book that you've now got up and running.
You mean my book, again. Pedestal.
Available on Amazon, and is it any other? Is it online just, or on any good bookstores?
No, most good bookstores wouldn't go near it. Swallow.
Whoa! Have nearly made me spit water all over my camera.
I waited for you to take the sip as well. No, because I'm a right bastard. Because I'm English.
Yeah, it's okay. And you didn't know anything about fucking unicorn. What the?
I didn't know. I had no idea. Pedestal is available on the line, and that's really the best place to go get it is on Amazon. You can get an ebook version pretty cheap, and you can get a lovely paperback like this. So it's published through Engen Books out of Newfoundland, and that is how that's how they distribute their books. They don't sort of have these big relationships with Indigo chapters, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's in select bookstores in Atlantic Canada, but it's certainly out west. You're going to want to go online to grab it. But yeah, this is. I mean, the story of Pedestal is the story behind it. As I kind of alluded to earlier, I started writing it in university, actually, when I was about 19, and I had this idea of a world where the social stratification was physically realized, essentially. So it was these big, massive cities that were raised above the original city. It was a bit. I hadn't read Brave New World at that point, but I realized laterally that it's a bit Brave New World in that sense.
Okay.
So the original kind of cities underneath were kind of becoming squalor, and that idea of this elite class and everybody else fighting it out, it just continued and became physically realized. But the other angle to it, and where a big Red Dwarf influence came in, was that I was heavily into video games, of course, as growing up, and Red Dwarf had this amazing episode where they went in this game called Better Than Life, and it came back a couple of times. Better Than Life was the first one, and essentially it was a completely immersive video game where you didn't even know you were in a video game. You could have anything you wanted.
Yeah, okay, I remember.
Right? And Arnold J. Rimmer was such an arsehole, like such an idiot, that he kind of amassed all this wealth in this world, and then he just ended up, he couldn't help but fuck himself, basically. Like he just went to chaos. He ended up having like 15 kids. His wife hated him. He was destitute. He was drunk, right? You remember that? So it was just really interesting to me, this idea. It was brilliant. You should go check it out. This is a tangent.
This is like a road trip in nostalgia. I'm loving it.
This is my world, man. I'm watching Cobra Kai right now. Don't even get me started.
Oh my God. So good.
So good.
Oh,
that's a whole other conversation.
In heaven.
I'm almost in tears sometimes. Some of William Zabka, Johnny's lines are just brilliant.
Oh, you know what? And it's so badly brutal. It's so,
it really is.
So somebody caught in time and not accepting the modern world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh. He doesn't even know what Facebook is or have a computer. It's fantastic. Anyway, this is a massive tangent, but
yeah. But
I was trying to pull it back in.
Cobra Kai. Please go and watch Cobra Kai after this interview.
100%. We endorse. This show endorses Cobra Kai, I guess. So anyway, I had all these influences, and the video games too. There were a couple of video games. Final Fantasy VII, for anybody who's a video game fan, was a big influence, like just in terms of the world and this idea of sort of big cities on plates and stuff like that. So there are tons of influences. But I was a bit of a sci-fi geek my whole life, essentially, and I wanted to write this book. And when I try to summarize it, because all writers get asked, what is the book about? So you try to think about it. When you get asked it enough times, you come up with a one-liner, right? So my one-liner is man reinvents God through technology. So it's this idea that we've become so distant from anything spiritual or religious, and we've gone so deep into depending on and being at one with our technology. Where does that end up taking us? So, and then what if that technology, we become so dependent that we look to it to tell us everything? Then could it, in fact, turn around and judge us eventually? And I think that was kind of the concept for it. So I started it in university, and then I came to Canada, and I fell into a career in marketing. And I think I had a first draft done around about the age of 26. And honestly, it became a bit of an albatross around my neck for a long time. I didn't feel I could move. I had lots of other ideas for stories, but I didn't feel like I could move on and write something else until Pedestal was done. But I could never really find the time or the energy or the inclination to finish Pedestal properly the way that I knew it needed to be. So it took a long time. And in fact, my story now to young writers, and when young writers ask me, how do I go about this? How do I get a book published? Is just don't do what I did. Don't let it become something that's an albatross around your neck. Don't wait too long. Don't put it off. As Neil Gaiman, I can never pronounce his name right. He had a quote, about just write, essentially, is what he said. Write the stories you'd like to read and finish what you start. And I got quite heavy for a number of years. Like, I was quite hard on myself about it. And I took a good friend of mine that I met in university, Pete Farmer, who I always give a call out whenever I'm talking to anybody, because Pete's a fantastic writer and a lot more disciplined than me, lives in Australia now. So we're at opposite ends of the day, but we still communicate regularly. And Pete took Pedestal, that rough draft that I had, and he just went through it, and he was brutal. And he said, you've got to rewrite this. You've got to cut that. This character has to go. I wrote an entire character out of it based on he's there. Hey, mate. How nice is that?
Hi, Pete. Thank you very much for joining us.
He only comes on when he knows I'm on, because he knows he's going to get the ego boost.
So he's now going to go. He's like, oh, good. I heard my name. See you later.
He's going to say nice things about me for sure. No. Pete's amazing, and he, and that was not sort of like, oh, I have these notes now from Pete, I'm going to do this. That was actually, when I got that, it was quite hard. I looked at it and went, that's a lot of work. And I'm still busy doing these ads and stuff. So I probably sat on it for, he's calling me a wanker. See, we got another Brit on the line, a Brit that lives in Australia now. So
what side of the border? Is he English, Scottish, Irish? Do we have an Irishman?
And we've got Pete's an Englishman who spent a lot of time in Japan and now lives in Australia.
Okay.
I like to say Pete.
But I bet you he knew that the unicorn was the national animal of Scotland.
Oh, he definitely, he knows everything. He's a lot smarter than me.
Thanks for joining Pete and abusing him. This is good.
So I sat on Pete's no holds barred feedback for probably another year, 18 months. And eventually I said, I got to do this. Like, it's holding me back. It's getting me down. So I started peeling off an hour every day, and the weekends I would go to a cafe on a Saturday and sit down for 3 hours and chip away at it until I eventually had something that I thought was fit to show to a publisher. And then being in sort of like the creative sort of industry that I was in, I worked with a lot of, designers and illustrators and writers. So I'd heard about Engen Books and the great things they were doing in Newfoundland with genre fiction, and I crashed one of their events and kind of cornered Matt LeDrew, the guy who runs Engen Books, and said, "I got this book, and I know Paul Tucker, the comic book artist, and he loved Paul Tucker, the comic book artist, who I work with." That's another name drop. Paul's super talented, and wait to see if he shows up.
Like Mr. Ben's shopkeeper.
If anybody likes comics, check out Paul Tucker. He's a Newfoundland-based comic book artist who's just signed with quite a big comic book publisher, and but he's been working on his. Paul was a real inspiration because he was the guy that, and he's done it his whole life. He'd get up at like 5 a.m. He'd put like 2-3 hours in before work.
Wow.
Every day. Then he'd work a long day at an ad agency, and he would do this day after day, and he still does it day after day. And it's incredible. The discipline. I'm not that disciplined, but that, Pete gave me these are the tools you need to go do this. And Paul sort of gave me, you've just got to be disciplined and do it. Like it's work and you've got to do it.
So I need to ask, just for an ego boost for either Pete or Paul, would one of them almost be classed as a mentor to you?
I think you say, who would win in a fight, Pete or Paul?
Oh, well, that's the follow-up question. But would you class one of them as a mentor to you in the writing world?
Oh, Pete. He's going to get such a big head.
You say that begrudgingly. Now, who would win in a fight, Pete or Paul?
Paul plays a lot of tennis and has big forearms, so I think you might Hulk smash Pete. No offense, Pete, man. I think you put up a good fight, but Pete would be. Pete is just a great writer who does what you're supposed to do and writes, and I'm just always in awe of it. He's written so much more than me, and I'm like, oh god, like he's that guy that makes you feel like you're just woefully unproductive. But in the best possible way. You
have loathing and hatred for Pete. There's
Pete also
undercurrent of
Pete, a little bit. No, he's fantastic, and he says he's been working out, so he might be able to take Paul. I don't know. Paul's pretty peaceful, so I don't know. He's a bit pacifistic, so
yeah. But the Canadians are like that.
Yeah, you don't know.
They're all calm, and then it's like Wolverine,
Yeah, gotta watch the quiet ones. You don't know what's going on behind them. Behind them eyes. Pete's definitely the probably the closest thing I have to a mentor, and just somebody that I look up to and respect immensely when it comes to the writing. Like he's the man. Yeah.
So is Pedestal a one-off, or because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read it.
Yeah, if it takes me 20 years to write a novel,
you're only a youngin. You've been a walking stick by the sequel.
I'm
wheelchair by the trilogy end.
I know, I like it. Yeah, I'll be just putting out the second one as I'm attending my funeral.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it doesn't go that way. I've always been a person that I'm very I have a bit of the old ADHD, so I'm very easily distracted. Yeah. And in a way, it's as you grow older, you start going, okay, well, there's got to be a reason I am the way I am. So you start looking into it, and then you start figuring out ways to manage yourself a bit, right? It's been a long road for me. The distractibility and the tendency to hop around made me a great fit for making ads, because that's really one of my creative directors back in the day said that being in an ad agency is kind of like the crack cocaine of creativity. You're creating these very quick bursts of creative stuff, and you get to move on to something else, and you're juggling different things. My brain liked to do that. My brain didn't really love sitting down and editing a novel, So you figure that out about yourself. But now what I found about me is like it's got to be very small chunks, and as long as I do that on a regular basis, you end up creating something. So the short answer is there will be another. I'm working on the next one. I've got the first draft about 3/4 complete, and that's only since Pedestal launched in May. So I'm doing quite well.
He's been working out because he knows he's going to have to kick your ass to get you going. Right?
He's like, oh god,
it's all coming together now.
He's over there going, how bad is this first draft going to be now? I'm going to have to... I'm hoping it's a bit better because I do actually believe that I'm a better writer than I was 20 years ago. I think I've learned both things in the craft, and I think I've practiced a lot, and I'm also lived a bit more. So I didn't, when I edited Pedestal, there were parts where I was like, I could rewrite that and I might write it better, but I didn't. I did the things I had to do, and I tried not to muck too much out of respect for, 20-year-old Gareth. It was kind of like, no, this is yours, man. I'm just fixing up your book. And the next one...
Wait a minute, Gareth, I'm going to be brutally honest here. If I think about 20-year-old Calum to now Calum, I look back and go, but he's just an asshole. So basically, why, like, in theory, it's like you should have just went, oh my God, you're just such an asshole, 20-year-old Gareth. Like, this is the evolution of perfection. So you should have just owned it and taken it as your own.
It's like 20-year-old Gareth, because you didn't have your shit together, is why I'm sat here editing this mess of a book. No, I think it might have lost something. That's what I was afraid of. Yeah. I feel like there was a naivete about it that was actually quite nice and maybe necessary. So that's my excuse for not doing as much work, and I'm sticking with it.
So you do a lot of blogging as well, and you do other kind of wee bits and bobs. You've kind of hinted at it, but have you managed to find a writing process? Because you hear about a lot of authors, like Stephen King, for example. He's a great, like, just your atypical, I'll sit down and type. What is it? He does about 2,000 or 20 pages or something stupid a day.
He's a machine.
Yeah. And then you hear guys like, Neil Gaiman has his process and all that. So have you come up with a process, or is it just what you've just said, little snippets at a time?
I think that's
go into a quiet room, light a candle, have a glass of red wine, maybe a bubble bath before you write. Is there anything like that?
While I'm writing.
While you're writing. You exuberant swine.
I'm in a bubble bath now. You just can't see. I
actually dribbled. Okay,
yes.
folks, I dribbled.
I want you to spit all over that nice microphone. Process, well, the Stephen King thing is really interesting because Pete and I are huge Stephen King fans, and I still have a copy of Stephen King's On Writing, where he kind of talks a bit about his life story and talks about the craft that Pete gave me as a Christmas gift, I think, when we were in university. And I still have that here somewhere with the Red Dwarf book. And I've read it a number of times, and I love it. But Stephen King did mess me up a bit because he said things like, oh, if you don't have time to read, you don't have time to write. Well, I didn't always have time to read. And he would say, you should be writing 1,000 words a day. I mean, that's the minimum, or whatever.
Stephen, okay, I'm going to interject slightly because I think times have changed. When Stephen King was first writing his novels, you could sell a novel and make a lot of money on it, like music, like everything else. So I have a lot of love and respect for Stephen King, but even I'm kind of going, like, it's slightly outdated principles now because it's not possible to make that money. Like, that big book deal that used to exist doesn't necessarily exist as much.
It's certainly a much more rare beast, isn't it? And I think it is a different world. And I think reading that actually messed with like my 20-year-old brain a bit. It was kind of like it was never, because, to be that prolific is not really normal. And it was only much later that somebody said to me, well, you write as much as is the right amount for you. And these days, like, once I sit down and get in the zone, I can crank out 1,000 words in a couple hours pretty consistently now. But it wasn't always the case. And I think that's another thing for young writers is, like, it doesn't have to be 1,000 words every day. Sit down, get something down on paper, get 200, get 500, but do it regularly. That's really the biggest key. For me, there's not a lot of theater or, around sitting down to write. I sit on my couch with the laptop in my lap, and that's just how I like to work. And you've got everything right there now. That's one thing we're very fortunate that the story I'm working on now is actually more of a modern day, real world not science fiction, actually, psychological thriller more so.
Oh,
but with a technological kind of element. I'm always
unicorns.
No unicorns yet, but there's still time. I'm not
time. Okay.
Yeah, I could squeeze one in there possibly. But you've got everything at your fingertips. I decided and had some reservations about it latterly to set this one in San Francisco, a city that I've never visited, but everybody knows to some degree, right? And it's been in so many movies and popular culture and has so many iconic landmarks and whatnot. And but you kind of get to have everything at your fingertips now. You know, with Google Maps and Google Earth, I can actually be going down the street. So when I'm trying to describe that, I can be there, and that's a really cool thing. So everything I need is right there in my lap.
Sorry, Pete. Sorry, I'm just laughing at Pete's comment. He's just finished your book for you.
I haven't figured out who did it yet, so nobody's going to see unicorn coming.
Actually, you know, I'd avoid unicorns. Deadpool really screwed up the unicorn world. Yeah. You know,
but also very enjoyable films.
So you were saying San Francisco and
I mean, it's all in your lap now, isn't it? Like, you know, you can go and be there and go down the street, and I think that's really cool. But this book was not set in the real world; it was set in an imaginary future world. So I could make it all up, but I have to get certain things right now that I'm setting it in a city that people actually live in and know and are quite passionate about.
You've got to research the streets and make sure they all connect.
Got to do research. It's terrible. Yeah.
No, that sounds great. So that's in what stages of writing? Did you say about 3/4 done, or?
Yeah, I would say it's probably about 3/4 of the way in terms of the word count now. And you know, some days I try to get up early and try to hit my 1,000 words. My low watermark is 500, and if I can get over 1,000, then I'm really happy. And that happens most days. Sometimes, you know, life gets in the way and it doesn't, and you kind of learn not to beat yourself up too much. And you know, that's the thing. If you
come up with it, you said it was a suspense thriller.
A psychological thriller.
Okay.
I would. Yeah.
So just stop writing and leave the next 100 pages blank.
Whoa.
And people will be like, whoa, that was
so genius. And just have like a little child's illustration of a unicorn on the very last page.
Oh yeah. It's with a knife.
It's done. Pete, I'm going to send it over for an edit.
Pete will be like 100 pages of blank. Oh.
You can fill that in.
You know, I just realized what I said earlier about Stephen King, and I've just realized I've blown any chance of getting Stephen King on my show now.
Oh no. He's a nice bloke, isn't he? I don't know. Scary.
He might not take too kindly to a Scot abusing his writing techniques and telling him he's out of date. I didn't say that. Used me as a ventriloquist dummy. Okay.
He actually lives not very far away from where I live. And actually, this is my second spell living in New Brunswick. And he's in New Hampshire. Somewhere down just across the border in the US anyway. And I know he has this mansion with like gargoyles, and I have considered taking a pilgrimage and driving down there. It might yet happen.
Did you realize stalking is still against the law?
What's that, sorry?
Stalking is still against the law.
Yeah, but you get stalked all the time. He's good for it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll just unleash the dogs, won't he? Like these hellhounds will just come out, red eyes and stuff. You'll be like,
it would be weird if he named his dog Cujo. Yeah, that's like Stephen King just lives in a world of Stephen King, and his car's named Christine. And
it's Christine to go down the supermarket. Brilliant.
Oh no, Pete's saying Maine, the font of all knowledge. Our new fact checker. I don't know where Stephen went.
Steve gave up when Pete came. I mean, you know, game recognized game.
So I need to ask Doodles.
Yeah, Pete knows about that too. Actually, that goes back to Pete.
What's the Doodles about?
I'll tell you about. If anyone wants to hop on the GarethMitton.com and go look at, I got a few doodles there. And one of the main stars of the doodles is a stick man with a fuzzy head, whose name is Brian. And Pete was there for the genesis of Brian. I don't know if he remembers, but when we were supposed to be in lectures learning our English in university, I would draw these little pictures. And they were actually based on, if you remember Radiohead, around like the OK Computer period.
Yes, yeah.
Well, if you look at some of the cover art, they had these little stick men with these like the heads were this confusion of sort of looping lines. It was, and that was kind of, I like that. That kind of described me perfectly. A stick man with a head that was a confusion of looping lines was I identified with that. So I created my own character. It was a stick man called Brian, and it was a bit of an awkward character. And what happened was I forgot about Brian for years, and then somebody reminded me about him. And I was back working at the ad agency, and I just wanted something that I could do like in my lunch hour that was creative but wasn't doing ads. So I started drawing little doodles of Brian again. So it didn't last long, only a few weeks, I think. And I just threw him up on the website because I thought it was like something else kind of interesting. But he was kind of, I kind of think of it now as like, he's my inner awkwardness put to paper. So if I have a strange, like I was going to the swimming pool for a while, and I've never felt comfortable in a swimming pool changing room ever. The flagrant acceptance of nudity is just very odd to me. No, like, and I'm just not comfortable. So Brian,
you should talk about it.
There's one with Brian. Anyway, you can't explain it. You've just got to go look at it. But it's my inner awkwardness put to paper. I think.
It's try not to do it sexy. It's just I'm laughing. Yeah.
I couldn't remember what the line was, but yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And that's the exact thought that went through my head, because there are children and there are old people in there. It's not right.
I'm sorry, but okay, I'm going to have to just point this out. If you are anything like the majority of people from the UK, why do we honestly think our pale, peely-wally bodies would be arousing to most people?
It's like, it's just very British to think that like seeing any amount of skin will send someone into a wild sexual frenzy.
It's those ankles, I tell you, it's those ankles.
Did you see the split of her dress? It went all the way to the knee.
But then again, we did get raised up with guys like Terry Tompkins and all that, ding dong and all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, we're digressing again.
Digression is fun. That's good.
It's always fun. No, I've been looking at your website, and the doodles I did, I've been laughing and giggling because there's a lot of good humor there. I love the fact that now I'm realizing they're part of your brain. It makes even more sense.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely part of my brain. Definitely.
So, Gareth, we're getting quite close to the hour and a half mark, and I did say to you that I was going to keep it quite tight because I appreciate that you're going to be hitting 11:30 soon.
Yeah. I'm all right. Yeah,
you're doing okay, laddie?
It's caffeinated. It's fine.
Which is quite funny because I actually used the British term, the hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
I ran into troubles with that here when I said, I got up at 8:30, and someone said, why did you get up at 4?
Yeah, I remember that. It's kind of like eventually you just ease into doing it the way that the other people do, right? But I had some really weird ones like that. Like I'm trying to think of there was something with time. I'm trying to remember. Oh, they would say things like, I would say, what time are you going to be there? And a Canadian would reply to me, 7:38. And I go like, that's very specific. Like 2 minutes before 22. But what they meant was between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. Yeah. 7:38.
And we don't run that. We are precision.
I'll be like, I've got to be there right at 7:38 because he's very precise.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are like, when we say a time, because we're British, we will be there half an hour earlier.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, at least.
Because one must never be late for an appointment.
Absolutely not. It would be uncivilized.
And never leave home without a neckerchief or a scarf.
Or your kilt.
Or my kilt, yes. I am
Okay,
actually wearing the kilt, as always.
That's good. I
It
encourage that. I've gone for nothing from the waist down.
To be honest, we're in this age of home live streaming. You are just lucky. I am actually just wearing something.
Just let it breathe.
This shirt just ends under the nipples.
Yeah.
And then it's just bollocks. It's just
one of
naked.
those 80s men's like cut off t-shirts like Rocky and Apollo wore on the beach.
I'm actually I've now got a list of things to read and watch after this. This is ridiculous.
This has been a British pop culture walk down memory lane for sure. It's been a lot of fun.
It has been, and we haven't even covered half the things I wanted to speak to you about.
Gareth Mitton, I just want to point out, says very fond of using the term noon 30. I don't know if I've heard that.
I'm not familiar. See, I would say 12:30.
Half 12.
Half 12, yeah.
Yeah.
Noon 30. I like it though. It's nice.
Noon 30. I think we're accepting it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm going with it.
We'll contact the Queen and see if we can get it put in.
Apparently, there's a little bit of turmoil in the royal family at the moment due to
heard
that scoundrel Harry.
He's great, isn't he? That's what they need.
Yes,
it's just like,
yeah.
I didn't know you could quit the royal family. I didn't know that was an option.
Well,
I'm sure a lot of people
years ago.
Charles is like, fuck.
Yeah, well, David did it for that American lass, didn't he?
Oh, is that right?
Oh, I've just found something really sticky on my desk. Okay. Literally, sorry folks to interrupt. I've just put my hand in my mouse and my hand has come away sticky.
No, this begs a lot of. I wouldn't have done that.
Oh, it's jam. It's jam. I had breakfast in my studio this morning doing some admin, and somehow I've managed to get jam all over the place.
Well, you've got a snack anyway. That'll keep you going.
The random stuff that happens when you're doing a live show. I'm now sticky. This is the problem. Not moist, sticky.
Very important distinction.
Yes, I now need to move everything away from the sticky patch.
Pete was asking, was that prompted by the talk of the royal family?
Well, the thing is,
moistness or the stickiness?
I'm now really confused. I'm not going to move anything because it's going to be disastrous. I'll clean it up after.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Just don't touch anything like expensive.
I can't believe I've done this, man. This is why I never eat in my studio, but I did it this morning because I was trying to get so much done. So we're getting quite close to the end, and I do wish to allow you to go to bed at a decent time and get some beauty sleep. Trust me.
I know.
Sound effects. Okay, no, I apologize, Gareth. That was a terrible, terrible thing to say.
It was harsh. It was so harsh.
We now have our quick fire round, and this is just a selection of questions given by the audience when I first started this project. So, are you ready to answer these questions?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Let's do it.
Okay, I will warn you, these are not used as a psychological experiment, and no government men in black suits will kick in your door if you answer one of them incorrect.
Enjoy that.
Okay, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
I was trying to do something witty. I don't have anything. I'm sorry. To get to the other side.
Perfect.
That's all I've got. Sorry. Tired.
No, Gareth, I accept that because all these other performer types that have been on, they've all tried to be amusing and they've all tried to be avant-garde. But you've just been very honest and said, well, why else would a chicken cross the road?
I've just gone logical.
Yes. I mean, really, what would be in the mindset of a chicken to get across the road. I mean, just perfect.
Yeah, just because it's there.
It's there. Because one must overcome obstacles.
Yeah, that's what the mountaineers say, isn't it? Why do you climb the mountain? Because it's there. But you could just sit and watch it, couldn't you? All the same. It's very attractive. Have a cup of tea. It's not a reason, is it? It's not a reason. It's an observation.
That's
Carry on.
Okay.
It bothers me.
Okay. What's your favorite kitchen utensil and why?
Oh, favorite kitchen utensil. Spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Justify.
Here's the thing. My wife likes to eat most things with a fork, and I get the appeal of a pokey fork, the proddy nature of a fork. But a spoon you can shovel. And I'm big on the shoveling. If you've got a meal that's of a varied consistency, there are maybe some solid things, some liquidy things, you're going to be able to get all of that in there. You know, she'll eat a dish that's at least 30% liquid with a fork, and she's left with a big pool of uneaten food at the end of it. And that bothers me deeply because my mum always taught me to finish my meals. So
yeah, or you get slapped in the. You know what? I'm actually totally with you on this because my wife does the same to me. I am a great believer in getting a spoon for most things.
Yes, it does work for most things. Try it.
Does. Lasagna, hey, a spoon.
Absolutely, man. Shepherd's pie.
Oh.
You want a spoon, don't you? Because it's kind of gravy-like, you know?
I'm sorry, macaroni cheese. What sort of idiot wants to use a fork in that? It's like you're getting like 2 bits of macaroni. Shovel it in.
You reminded me of another reason to use the spoon with the mac and cheese, because once you get to the bottom of the bowl, even if you do manage to lasso all of the macaroni with your fork, you've got that lovely caked on cheesy stuff. And your fork's not getting that off the bowl, is it? But your spoon, with its nice rounded edge, that's going to get it off there. You're going to be able to, and that's the best part, really. Yeah. That last spoonful of cheesy stuff.
If they didn't want us to use spoons, they wouldn't have invented soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my belief. No, you're a man after my own heart.
I'm with you.
I love it. No, I use spoons all the time. I think they're great. So just forks.
Can't play the forks, can you?
Things.
Can't get a tune out of the forks very easily either, can you? If you just decide that you want to break into a musical number, a pair of forks aren't going to get you anywhere except the emergency room potentially. Pair of spoons will make you friends. Pair of forks will make you injured. Just saying. Spooning versus forking. Garden Gnome said, right. Spooning can often lead to forking. You have to be careful.
Yes. if done it correctly and seductively.
If you're lucky.
Okay. Well, because Garden Gnome just appeared, how do you feel about garden gnomes?
Mixed feelings. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in England, so I saw them around, and they didn't bother me too much at the time, but now if I look into their beady little eyes, it strikes terror into my heart.
It is kind of, somebody actually said the same thing. When you're in the UK, it looks normal because our gardens are filled with weird scenes. Like people actually create whole kind of like epic cityscapes of toadstools and animals and gnomes.
That's awesome, but also they need to get better interests.
Yeah. And then when you see them over in like places like Canada, you're just like, no. Well, no. This is like the for some reason over here they look like they're going to kill you.
Yeah. Is it the design aesthetic, or is it just they're just out of place?
I don't know. I think it's both. It just like they don't suit being next to a pine tree.
No, they need hedge and rounded British bush.
Yes, the quintessential English countryside.
Yeah, that's where they belong. Can't take them out of there.
Yeah, that's it.
No.
Well, in Scotland, we have Nessies all over our gardens.
You really?
No.
I wouldn't know because I've not roamed around many Scottish gardens. So
I thought you were actually about to say because I've never been to Scotland, and I was just about to go. Really, don't do this.
I've been to Scotland. I was very young, and I don't remember much except that it rained and there was a castle.
Yes, that's Scotland. You've summed up Scotland. The
Perfect.
only thing you forgot was bagpipes.
Oh, I think I might have heard some bagpipes too.
That's
Yeah.
it. Rain,
I did it.
castle, bagpipes.
Off the bucket list. Don't need to go back.
You don't need to go back, mate. You've heard and seen it all. Okay. Pineapple on a pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
All day long.
It's great. And I always add this for my guests. Add black olives.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's such a good combination.
So you get lovely, sweet and salty, and it's just heavenly.
Yeah, I agree. I when I was younger, I thought it was wrong, and it does directly go against one of my life principles, which is no fruit on like savory food. I don't like fruit on my salad. Right. Don't put them oranges on the salad. That's not right.
That's a weird thing that I've never seen it anywhere but in the UK though.
Oh no, they do it other places. I think they do it here some places.
Do they?
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, if you saw this body below the neckline, you'd understand why I don't understand salads.
Strawberries, they shouldn't be on a salad. In general, I don't like fruit. I don't like fruit. Okay, I like vegetables. I don't think fruit should be involved with me savory food. It should be eaten afterwards or as a snack.
But when you say vegetables, do you go with the traditional UK vegetable? It's got to basically be starch, potatoes, carrots, peas, and none of this other fancy nonsense.
Give peas a chance. That's all I'll say about that.
I mean, I just discovered zucchinis.
Zucchinis.
What we call aubergine. No. Wait a minute. Is it?
Yeah, I get confused about this too. Or is it, what's the other one? Gherkin. Is it a gherkin? No, they're pickly, aren't they?
It's an aubergine. I think it's an aubergine. No, the aubergine's different. Oh, I've forgotten. I know. You see, this is a problem. I've been here too long. I'm forgetting the good old terms from the UK.
That happens, yeah.
Yeah,
but I know I can picture it.
Else, and I can't remember what it is. It's like, why change the name? Courgettes. Thank you. Jeez, you know what, Pete? You're coming on the next show.
Steve already lost his fact-checking job.
Yes, and for some reason they call them zucchinis. I mean, it's like, honestly, it's like trying to get as far away from the UK as possible. We call it a C, they call it a Z.
Yeah, that's as far as they could have got. Yeah.
Yeah.
The alphabet ends there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot more weird things, but I love it. That's why we're here. We love them. They're wonderful, and we married to them. We got married over here, so we have to accept it.
Yeah, it's over now.
Okay. Who should play you in a biopic of your life?
Oh, depends when I die, I suppose. But I'd need a different actor for different stages, wouldn't I? So, not because I think there's any resemblance or anything of that nature, but just because I admire his work, I would like Edward Norton to play me.
You know, oddly enough, I was looking at you and thinking Ed Norton would be quite good for you.
No, really?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not just saying that, because normally when I ask that question, I look at the guest and go, no, I have no idea. But I was actually just thinking Ed Norton, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ed Norton fan. I Fight Club absolutely blew me away when it came out in '99. It was a very impressionable time in my life, and it influenced me to such a degree that, like, I after that I became quite minimalist, and to this day I'm that way. Like, I don't like amassing too many things. Like, it had that big of an effect on me. And
Calum's a great writer and another author that people should read because his work is amazing.
Yeah, that book is so, like, if you read the book,
and then you watch the movie and you're kind of like, well, it's always the same with books and movies, but this one really is like, it's so different.
It is very different, but they're both beautiful pieces of art in their own right. I do love them both, and but Ed Norton, like, there was American History X as well that had gone before that. I thought he was fantastic, and just he has such ability to play different roles. Then Hulk, which was very sad, very sad.
Why?
Yeah.
Why did he do that?
I wanted it to work, but no, he just shouldn't have got involved. But then, then he got out of it, didn't he?
And then he did Birdman. Did you see him in Birdman?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
That was
That was
quite he was
different.
good. He was good in that.
No, he's good in
So
everything.
Ed Norton, I like it. That's a good choice.
We'll go with Ed.
Excellent. Excellent. What is the right way to hang the toilet paper?
Oh, that's absolutely proven by science, and you can Google it. The original this is a passion of mine, so I'm glad that you asked. The original patent for toilet paper has a diagram, and it clearly shows that you hang it so that the lip is over the curvature facing you. Never should it be tucked in the back, which is highly inaccessible. And while we're on the subject, I would like to take the opportunity to address something else that bothers me in the bathroom department, which is the raising or lowering of the toilet seat. For years, we've been told that the default position is down, but I don't understand why there's such a big... I have no problem. I just want to say no problem putting this toilet seat down, but surely gravity is on your side putting it down. So it's harder, is it not, to put it up? I'm just saying. So
and how does your wife feel about this?
So you've got to do this. That's what you've got to do to put it down. But to get it up, I should rephrase again. To push the toilet seat up is a more involved process. So I've always been confused by the fracas around.
And is your wife of the same opinion as yourself on this?
Our opinions on this subject could be best described as divided or opposing.
Right. No, that's acceptable. Yes. Yeah. Very diplomatic.
Yeah.
That sofa you own is not very comfy, is it?
What's that?
The sofa's not very comfy at your house, is it?
It's really not. And I do know for a fact it doesn't aid sleep. Don't do it sexy, Pete said.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. What's the worst job you've ever done?
Oh, well, I did do that job at the downtown St. John's Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the worst. I think I know the worst job that I ever had. When I was in university with Pete, I would come home on the weekends and I would get up at ungodly o'clock on a Sunday morning, drive about 35 minutes in my mum's beat up Nissan Micra. And my job at a mill of some kind, I was the only person there on a Sunday morning, and my job was to sort 3,500 clock cards into alphabetical order. Beat that. That's a bad job.
Yeah. I was reminiscing about the Nissan Micra, and then you just basically put me in my place with that job.
The Micra was awesome, but the job was bad. The job was not good.
That's rough.
Really rough.
But you know what? No wonder you got your English degree so easily.
Yeah. I knew my alphabets.
Which is pretty much the fundamental basis of...
Yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
You did it, man.
Yeah.
Training without even knowing it. Well done.
It was like Rocky, really. He was kind of my Rocky.
Yeah. Without the theme music.
Yeah. It was mainly Wheatus. For some reason. That's the song that sticks in my head, was on the radio all the time. And some really bad late Madonna. That's late Madonna. But later than, was good.
The good stuff.
There was a lot of that.
Okay, you're stuck in an elevator with one person. Who is it?
Like it, who would I want it to be?
Yeah.
Or who would I probably get stuck with?
No, who would you like it to be?
Oh, God. That's a dicey question. Who would I like to get stuck in an elevator with? Live or dead? Is it the elevator?
It doesn't matter. This is your answer. You answer whatever you wish.
Magical elevator. It could be a unicorn, for instance.
Yeah, if you wish. Although the conversation might be a bit awkward and they do get a bit stabby.
It'd be like, I hear you didn't know about me. That was my bad Scottish accent. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you never to do that again.
And I respect that and will refrain.
Basically, it's really funny, just to interject before you answer. I've noticed the one thing about the UK people. The one bad accent that nobody can do, no one can do a good Scottish accent. And the rest of us just do Monty Python accents. Well, that's it. It's just Monty Python all the way.
It's always like, oh, you're British. Would you like a spot of tea? That's what I get a lot. Yeah, I prefer coffee, but
Yeah. Okay, so who is your elevator choice?
I'm gonna go throw back to earlier in our conversation and say Ian Banks. I think I'd love to pick God rest his soul now, but I'd love to pick Ian Banks's brains just about where he got his ideas and how he went about the writing process.
Nice. Sorry, my head went really weird there and went like actually pick his brains, and I don't know why. For some reason, I went into the zone of picking his. Oh, there's a nice bit.
Have you been watching Hannibal or something? I've been watching.
No, I was reading a weird book recently, and one of the characters was actually a oh my goodness, he was it's escaped me the name. He basically could he tore apart dead bodies to find their secrets. Necromancer.
Oh yeah.
It's a series called Necroscope by an author whose name has escaped me. And very, very good books, but just that's where my dark moment went.
That's dark. Yeah.
I love it. Yes.
I would.
Okay. So Ian Banks, what a lovely idea. Yes, that would be.
We'd have a good chat, I think, if he'd give me the time of day.
Yeah. Apparently he hated the English, so I don't know if that would work.
Did he?
No, I don't know. I can't. I'm sorry. I did say we make wild accusations. I can't, honestly, because the poor man is dearly departed. I can't uphold that statement. That's just rude. Okay.
He probably did. He was Scottish, so it's a fair chance.
Yeah. What superpower would you want, and would you use it for good or evil?
Invisibility, evil.
Oh, right in there. I love it. It's the filthiest of all superpowers, isn't it?
You can't see me, but I can see you. I don't know. That's why I just went with what came in my head. I think mainly for comedy value, but also probably a quick peek into my dark psyche.
No, it's okay, and it probably comes from because I vaguely remember there being a TV series or something called The Invisible Man in the UK.
Yeah.
And but no, I love that. I like the fact you're actually owning it. You're basically saying invisibility, and because I'm basically going to be perverted.
Can't deny it.
Go for me, Gareth. I'm loving it. I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm down. Okay, where are we? Elevator, kitchen. Okay, what is your guilty musical artist pleasure?
There are several. I'm going to give you two, actually.
Okay, please.
One is George Michael. Love a bit of George Michael. A good friend of mine in
Are we talking about George Michael or Wham?
Oh, mainly George's own stuff, but
okay.
I like Ladies and Gentlemen, that whole compilation. I play it for some reason at Christmas, every Christmas. I think he died on Christmas Day or something. Maybe that's why.
Sorry, I'm not laughing because of him. Sorry, I just realised I just punched my mic as well. Sorry, Pete commented on you, and you're talking about George Michael dying, and I'm laughing. That just looked so wrong.
That's the problem, see, when you've got more than one conversation going on. Steve Jeffries fact-checking necromancer for you there too.
Yes. Oh my God.
My God, we're going to be held accountable for everything.
I know.
We're never going to get up.
Any defamatory statements, outrageous claims. Like the fact is, I invented the word necromancer. Fact check that, Jeffrey.
Check it out.
Jeffries, sorry. Okay, sorry. George Michael.
Yeah, George Michael, I just love. And Savage Garden would be the other one.
Savage Garden.
Do you know Australian rock pop duo from the late 90s?
Yeah.
And I really, me and my sister, my sister was older than me, right? So she left home early, and we were never that friendly. She was 7 years older, and she was a girl, and I was a nerdy kid, so we didn't bond that much when we were young. But life brought us back together at Mum's place one summer when I was at university, and we spent that whole summer together. And Savage Garden was on the radio. We fell in love with Savage Garden, and that's our thing now. Me and Paula, Savage Garden forever. So Not
I
even
love it.
ashamed.
So apparently Stephen Jeffrey has basically said probably true. So this is good. So apparently everything you say is getting fact-checked wrong. Everything I say is allowed.
Yeah, why is that? I wonder. That's I don't
Scottish.
know. Yeah.
Everyone loves the Scots.
Everyone's the Scots, and everyone just wants to fact check the Brits.
Well, you did have that whole issue with the Empire, okay?
I don't know anything about that. It's like a unicorn.
Yeah, well, unicorn. I still can't get over that, mate.
No
okay,
idea.
last question. And oddly enough, we've already spoken a wee bit about this, so I'm taking you back to your fight club. You're in a bar. Somebody walks up to you and starts giving you grief, and you know it's going to kick off. You know you're about to get into some argy-bargy.
Mm-hmm.
What is the theme music that starts playing in your head?
Oh, God. It didn't come instantly. Argy-bargy.
If you say something like Gary Glitter, I'm hanging up on you.
Billy Idol came in my head. Maybe
Billy Idol. That's not bad.
Billy Idol. Yeah, White Wedding. Let's rumble to White Wedding.
That is quite a complex rumble.
Yeah, I know, man. It's going to be fast paced. Wedding, and there's going to be aggression. There's a bit of aggression to it, right? So I think that'd be a good one.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Well done.
A lot of throwing glasses, I think.
Sorry?
A lot of throwing of glass.
Right.
Bottles and glasses.
So kind of, I almost envision it starting like that scene in Train Spotting. You know,
just
where
big over the
yeah, then he goes down and accuses the bar. Yeah. I kind of see you doing that, kind of as a subtle ruse to.
Yeah, if I lobbed that pint glass, I'd have to leave. I don't want to be around for any actual fighting. I'm not good at that. I'm not very good at it.
Oh, so you kind of just want to be like the little gargoyle staring down.
Oh, I'd watch. Yeah, I'd eat some popcorn. Be like UFC, wouldn't it? It'd be fantastic.
Hopefully,
you don't want to get bought.
Hopefully, you don't get covered in any special sauce that's flying about. It'll all be fine.
You know, that reminds me of a time when I was working for Steve's newspaper, and they brought boxing back. Yeah. There are some stories around that, but
you tell me more.
The one I was thinking of was they brought boxing. A promoter brought boxing back in Calgary. Apparently, they hadn't had boxing for a while. Yeah. So I went to this casino in Calgary and watched, and I was ringside watching the boxing, and it was fantastic until he took a right hook, and I got covered in this saliva, blood, congealed sort of substance, and never wanted to be a ringside reporter ever again.
Oh, that is pretty.
True story.
That's pretty dark. That's like, yeah,
it was nasty. It was really bad.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know what it's like getting slobbered on by a dog. I mean, like, imagine a human.
Yeah,
I just sound like a Saturday Night in Govan.
I was amused by the quantity, just the sheer amount of it.
Was it moist?
It was worse than jam.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal. Gareth, thank you very much. That is our quick fire round, which never goes quick.
Not with me.
Not with anyone. So, Gareth, I want to thank you for joining. This has been an absolute pleasure. Wonderful reminiscing. Great hearing about your writing and your book. Just remind everyone the book name, where it can be found.
So Pedestal, there it is. Amazon is the best place to go. Just go and punch in Amazon Gareth Mitton punch in Pedestal Gareth Mitton on the Amazon, and you'll be able to find it in
Amazon.
Amazon. That's what I like to call it. And you'll find it in paperback or ebook format. And somebody was asking about an audiobook, and that is in the works. I'm actually going to voice it myself because that's something I'm starting to do. And it is the next project on the list. So I'm hoping within a couple of months, but definitely keep an eye on my social media. And I did want to really, I mentioned earlier, the book cover design, which shows like this is the top side, the rich cities and the slums below. This is all very intricate little houses, and if you look at this closely, it's quite the work of art in its own right. And I just want to give a shout out to I've got to say this right, Erasing Atinom, who are based in Athens, Greece. Incredibly talented designers that I stumbled on the internet when I was desperate for somebody to design a cover. Loved their artwork, and they designed the cover. So always like to give them a shout out, because it really encaptured. I don't know if that's a word. I'm getting tired, but it really fit the bill for me, and I was very happy to them. So definitely check out their work too.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Well, I'm going to pop you back into the green room while I sign off, Gareth, because I do want to get you in bed before the witching hour. I don't want you turning into a pumpkin on us. In the green room, you're going to find ham and pineapple pizza. You'll find jars of olives, the M&Ms with all the W's off, and just because I screwed up, some toast and jam.
Hey. Perfect.
And I will catch you after the show's finished just to thank you properly. So, ladies and gentlemen, Gareth Mitton.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks you for joining. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining today. Pete, Stephen, Jessup, Garden Gnome. There were a couple other people, but Pete took over the feed on the comments. Thank you, Pete, by the way. Lovely for you to join. Andrew was there. Catherine was there. Thank you all for joining this show. I hope you have enjoyed listening, the conversation with Gareth that we just had. I'm fascinated now to pick up his book, so please do go to the Amazon, which is now what we're calling it. Apparently that's a proper English term. The Amazon, where you can pick up his book, Pedestal. If you go to his website, which is garethmitton.com, there is actually a link on his website as well. We do have his Facebook flowing there as well, so please do follow him for his updates, his doodles, his writings, his blogging, and basically a wonderful guest to have on tonight. If anyone is wishing to join me on the show and be a guest, do remember I'm always looking for new guests. Calum Lykan Storyteller at gmail.com. Let's get this mouse to move over these double screens. Let's just get that up. So if you're interested in joining, Calum Lykan Storyteller at gmail.com. We have guests booked, but I'm always looking for more. And next week, we actually have the second coming. Yep. Not the Messiah, close to the Messiah. We have Curtis Dominic coming back, the turkey boots, turkey legs, whatever, I can't remember his goddamn nickname. The legend, the hero, the beard. I mean, the guy goes by so many names, it's unreal. But join me next Thursday, same place, same time, for Curtis Dominic, the second coming. Apparently, we're going to have some questions, and then we're playing some sort of game. I don't know. He's setting it up. It's my show. He's taking over again. You know how it went in the last chat. But in the meantime, if you're eager for some Scottish charm, sophistication, and ramblings, do remember on Monday evenings we have a Scotsman blathers about. And this episode I've been asked to talk about the Albert Ostman story, which, if you're not familiar about, is connected to the gigantic, large-footed beasties which are supposed to roam about these wonderful lands known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, and I believe we're dubbing the plural as Big Feet. Steve, you can fact check that. It's going to be right because I've declared it so. But yes, Monday, 8 p.m., live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, a Scotsman blathers about, and it's the Albert Ostman story. But also do go over to the Chestermere Anchor News, which Gareth worked on, and Stephen Jeffrey is the proud master and commander of the helm, because we started doing our live weekly news reads. Not going to lie, they're a bit rough at the moment, mainly because of me, because I'm actually for once having to follow a semi-script. Anyone that knows me knows scripts and me can be a bit dubious, especially on the camera, because I'm kind of doing this. Yeah, I'm looking to the side, trying to read a teleprompter. We're going to liven it up. It's going to get better with experience and time. I promise to run Burgundy as much as possible in time, which effectively means I'm just going to become a drunken Scotsman screaming wild accusations and comments at the camera. I don't have the hair, so we'll figure out the rest. But ladies and gents, thanks for joining me on this episode of A Scotsman Talks to our wonderful guest, Gareth Mitton. He was fabulous, great author, lovely chap, even though he's English. We'll forgive him. It's not his fault. It's just hereditary. And our next guest, Curtis Dominic, coming up next week. Thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to everyone who's commented, who's been a part of the feed. I'm now trying to move the mouse back over to the other screen. It's a high-class production. You know how it goes, guys. I'll see you all hopefully Monday, and if not, I'll see you all next week for another Scotsman Talks To.